Today's video, we are going over how to play a really strong early game into a really strong late game. Mid-game a little bit less so, but I'm telling you it's a good one. The comp that we play in this game is a Corki game. However, I wouldn't consider this a Corki guide. If you want to learn Corki the same way I did, there's a really great video by Trajan the Cruel. I'll put the link in the description. You can go check it out. And honestly, you should subscribe to his channel anyways. He's just a really great content creator, and I really like watching his stuff. He's a challenger player, I believe, right now, and he's really good. But what you are going to learn in this video is how to play a really strong early game to save HP, that even if you don't hit in the mid game, you can still end up with a really strong board, and honestly even go kind of sicko mode, because in the end, we hit like a Corki 3, which is crazy because we don't hit Corki until like 5-1 or something like that. This is not a just hit meta. You just got to play a strong game. And with that, I hope you enjoy the video. So we actually end up missing completely on the first carousel. We don't get the bow. We don't get this glove we were going for. We end up with a tier on a Vladimir. I normally try and go route or bow. I think it flexes pretty decently. This tier is not ideal, though Hodge is pretty good on a couple of carries. I really like it on Siphon, and I do really like it on Corki. So with Corki being really good in the meta and pretty easy to play even contested, I'm not too sad about this tier. I just hopefully we don't end up with like 3 or 4 of them. We might make a blue buff on Yasuo later, but we don't really have too much use for another tier. Maybe like a Shiv early could help as well. Save a little bit of HP early on. We do get a glove for our Hodge, as well as a nice bruiser frontline. Tahm Kench and Shen are 2 of the really good frontlines early for like a Corki Cannoneer type of build. There's a lot of options on what you could run, especially for backline, but this does help you flex what your frontline and backline are going to be. For our first augment, it's a tier 1 augment. I really don't like Exiles too much this patch, especially because you normally want a Lulu next to your carry. Tempest Heart doesn't seem super great, and it is a tier 1 augment, so I'm totally fine taking a Thieves Gloves here. Helps give us a little bit more frontline, especially because we're going to throw it on Shen. There's no real items you normally throw on Shen, and since we're going to swap him out later, I'm perfectly fine throwing the Thieves Gloves on him here to get a little bit of value. We start off carrying with this Ezreal, and we slam a Hodge. There's probably nothing else we're doing with that tier, and I think getting a lot of value as fast as possible is pretty good. We're holding a lot of pairs, so I do decide to sell this a Leona because we're really playing Bruiser, and holding a Leona is the least effective of all these pairs since we don't even have another Guardian. And I really am okay with this Hodge Slam. It gets a lot of utility and is actually a pretty okay late game item. We do hit this set too. Pretty strong early game unit, also really good with Hodge, so we end up making him our carry for a short time. We can put in Senna and get 3 Rage Wing, and that just works with Tristana or Jinx to get in Revel and Cannoneer. And now we're pretty strong, so I'm actually not too concerned with keeping that lose streak going. I'd much rather try and just play strong board for a win streak. I do see this Lulu in my shop. I don't think it actually adds that much value to your board early. We're gonna find a Lulu later. I do buy it for a second, but then I sell it because we're just not gonna play it ever. And on second carousel, I'm trying to grab this glove off of Olaf. There weren't really any other AD items, and Corki is kind of flex. I like IE Hodge. I think it's a really good mix, as well as Last Whisper is pretty good for him. He really does need Armor Shred, and if you want to play with Itis, then it's pretty good because then you don't have to work in Siphon to get some Whisper in there, and then you can just get one of the strongest front lines in the game with one of the strongest bat line. I do decide to level here on 5. I kind of want to keep my win streak. I did a little bit of scouting, and I do think that this Tristana Nomsy does make an impact on whether or not we win against at least 3 people in the lobby. We haven't finished off our Tahm Kench pair, but we don't even have Jinx yet anyways, so Revel doesn't matter too much. We might be able to replace him with a Skarner 2 if necessary, but for right now, we're even stronger than the other Jinx player, and we win streak into Krugs. But for now, we're even stronger than the other Cannoneer player, who did have Lulu in on their team. It feels like a big pickup because it's a 3 cost, but I don't think it adds that much value in the early game. So maybe don't actually worry about Lulu. I think it's much better to make Econ. At Krugs, we hit Shen 2, which is great because he's our Thieves Gloves holder, and we have a pretty upgraded board. Without Rage Wing, Set's definitely not going to carry us too much longer. He might get us through stage 3, but especially without full itemization, he's going to fall off pretty soon. Melee carries like Yone and Set are a little scary just because of how much like area of effect damage there is in the game right now. Cannoneers is all area effect. Even Nico, Shioyu, and Anivia, that whole comp just shreds melee units, and once they start getting a couple of those type of units, like Anivia's in the lobby with the Morellos, it's going to really affect our Set's ability to help us carry. So hopefully we're able to start setting up more of our backline units instead of depending on Set for all of our damage. For our second augment, I'm not too big of a fan of Portable Forge, so I take Last Stand. I think it'll just do a little bit more for our Omni Vamp as well as attack speed. I think best case scenario, Portable Forge gives us a Triforce, which doesn't honestly feel that great in this comp. I'd much rather a 1 chance not to die plus the additional attack speed, health. There's just a lot you get from Last Stand. It's not played too often, I don't think. At 3-2, we do find a Jinx and a Senna and level up to 6. This gives us our 2 Cannoneers, start setting up that backline, as well as getting throwing Revel in. I do debate between myself whether or not I should be throwing in Revel or if I should be throwing in Rage Wing, since we do have the Shen 2 and the Set 2. I think here I put in Revel, but then I later decide to put in Senna. Jinx 1, Senna 1, I think it's really debatable. Jinx gives a lot of utility with her cast and being able to stun units, whereas Senna and Rage Wing is really good. But I don't think Set needs the attack speed without his Rage Blade, and he gets a decent amount of healing off of Hodge. If he's getting soloed by everyone, he's going to die anyways, so it might just be Jinx anyways. We do start to lose fights here, but we finally hit the Tahm Kench 2, and we've saved a decent amount of HP that's going to allow us to go 7, and we're not really even that weak, only losing by a unit or 2 every fight. On third carousel, we're really just trying to finish another Set item. We managed to get a bow, and I had to make the decision on whether it was Rage Blade or Last Whisper. I then decided to slide him a Rage Blade. This is mostly because I wanted to just get all of my item components as usable as possible. Rage Blade is a pretty good item on Corki anyways, and this allows us to slam Gargoyle Stoneplate and still have all of our components on the board. We could have slammed the Last Whisper. The only problem is then we have a rod that's doing nothing, and what are we planning for it for the future? Maybe we can get a bow for Rage Blade, but if we get a bunch of random other items, there's not much you can do. With a glove, you can kind of still go Last Whisper. You can still go maybe even another Hodge, an IE. Slamming Rage Blade just leaves our ends a little bit more open while getting the most out of all of our items. So now we're saving gold. We're pretty strong, and leveling to 7 doesn't add too much value to our board. We could throw Jinx in, but it's a Jinx 1, and rolling at 6 isn't going to do much for us. Maybe we'll find a Jinx 2, but our carry's already 2-starred, and we really just want to find our 4-cost units instead of trying to pivot into a 2-cost board. Especially after pivoting, we see a lot of people are holding like Jinx 2s, Tristana 2s. It'll be better just to go 7 and try and find like a Corki 1, Sona 1, and pivot to that board instead. Here we do lose to a Siphon board, but we're still pretty healthy, especially in comparison to the lobby. We're in 4th, and we're only even like 6 HP away from the person in 1st. And at Wolves, we're able to level up to 7 with full econ. Off of Wolves, we do get another bow to make our Last Whisper, and we even find a Siphon in our shop. Ideally, we do really want to go for the Itis board, but we do find a second Siphon, which makes me think we might be playing Siphon Corki here. Sometimes you just have to play because it's what you hit, even if it's not optimal after we just slammed a Last Whisper. But even if we have to play Siphon now, we can flex into an Itis later. It's not that scary. They're pretty plug and play. For our third augment, none of these really seem like any good options. Future Sight's not great. Blue Battery maybe, but I just decide to reroll instead. And we find Cybernetic Implants, which gives a little AD to a lot of our team since we do have a lot of items spread around. I decided to roll a little bit, try and find maybe a Corki or something to stabilize. We're at 4-2, and our set is really going to fall off here. This play is a little bit scary, but we found a Silas 2, and we were one off of a Siphon, so I decided to throw in our Siphon boy. And when we find one more Siphon, we're actually in a really good spot. The only problem is I did position the Siphon to be protecting our set, and Siphon just runs away and lets him die. If we had replaced maybe the Siphon and the Silas, we might have even won this fight. That's an important thing about positioning, is Siphon should not be like solo frontlining in front of your melee carry, definitely, because everyone's just going to re-aggro onto them. It can even be a problem with Corki, where like a Shioyu will turn around and attack your Corki, so be aware of that. I do actually end up swapping sides with my Silas just to avoid that exact problem. And I rolled just a tad bit more, and I do find our Itis. I decided to just swap into Itis. Siphon's not doing that much for us, and we should probably start prepping this Determined Investor. It takes 7 deaths in order for it to be Diamond Hands, so we really want to get that going, especially because it gives us 10 gold and a Nikos, which is really going to help us stabilize with our comp. After going 8, we're going to be able to 2-star a unit, hopefully. Whichever one we end up 2-starring second, Itis or Corki. But for now, we're actually really going to hurt because our set's going to fall off. On 5th carousel, I grab this cane with a belt. We have our main items for our Corki, and really all we want is another item for Itis or a Morellas to put on our Sona. We do find a Jinx 2, and I think Jinx 2 here with Cannoneer and a little bit of Revel is actually stronger than this set, especially because a lot of your comps that melt frontline units are really coming out. Some people are getting their Anivia online, and it's a little weird, but I do think this Jinx is a bit stronger. Not much, but a little bit. We are a bit unlucky to immediately then go into a person who found Shyvana with Bloodthirster Archangels, and he's contesting our Cannoneer unit, so that's not great. Take a decent amount of damage here, and now we're sitting at 33. We still haven't procced our last stand, so we're not super worried about it. I also kind of value this Thresh a little bit more than even a Silas 2. It might seem a bit weird, but Guardian on this Itis feels a little bit more value since we didn't even have Bruiser in, and Silas, it felt like he died in like 0.5 seconds. Itis is really our only frontline, so Itis being able to have a shield it feels like more valuable. Here we're playing against a Leona reroll player. It is Electric Overload, so it is a Leona carry slash Yone carry. We don't exactly have a super strong frontline just yet, but he also doesn't have a great Yone or Yone items. Maybe if you watched my guide on this comp, you would know that you need Rageblade, QSS, Bloodthirster on your Yone, and this Sunfire actually is not doing that much value. Ideally, it would be a Gargoyle Stoneplate or some type of resistance item. Probably actually even Declaw right now since there's so much AP. Off of Treasure Dragon, we get a Zeke's Herald and a Dragon's Claw. that, as well as a chain vest. I immediately take it. This is perfect itemization. This gives us a Zeeks on our Lulu, as well as a Sunfire to put on our Itis, and a Gargoyle Stone Plate. So here actually I decided to go level 8 and try and find a Corki. We do hit. I was thinking about not moving items over just yet, but we do have an item remover. Since it's a Corki 1, we do value this revel damage a lot, just because we're not going to get like the maximum value off of this Corki. So being able to keep Jinx in is fine. If we didn't have the item remover, I think we would have left the items on Jinx until we either hit Corki 2 or probably found a replacement Jinx. And despite being at 24 HP, we're actually quite strong, at least in comparison to most of the lobby. This Corki 1 stabilizes our board infinitely. We also only really need 2 upgrades now between Itis and Corki. We have a Nico's Help on the way, and this Jinx can be replaced with almost any legendary unit. Since Determined Investor turns into a Diamond's Hands, Diamond Hands is best in slot on like a Yasuo, so Yasuo would probably be our best option. Bard is also really great in this comp. Soraka helps heals up our Itis a little bit more, as well as giving our Tiny Tactician a little bit more health. And I was saving up my gold, because even though we have Corki 1, we're not really going to make a Corki 2 if we only have like 8 gold. But once we have a second Corki, I'm totally fine rolling down trying to find the upgrade, and we do, as well as a Soraka that we can throw in over our Jinx. And now our board is super stable. Even though we have a 1-star frontline, we have Itis with almost perfect itemization, and we even have a second Itis in our shop that we don't see till later. So even when we go against the Shyvana player again later, we absolutely destroy him. This version of Corki is a monster. He is so scary. So we pick up the second Itis, and here we actually have a Draken Carousel. No one else is playing Itis this game, so I'm pretty confident I'm just going to get this Trap Claw Itis for free. And it's really good because we already have Itis items, so this Trap Claw is going to fly off, and we're going to be able to use it on our Lulu to be able to corner our Corki permanently, and don't have to worry about the 2 Thresh players in the game. And now we are not going to roll for a Thresh 2, especially because there's a Thresh 3 already out of the lobby and another Thresh 2. So we just get to save our econ throughout the rest of stage 5. We're win streaking, so we're making a decent amount of gold, as well as I don't think I really lose to anyone. We don't have to look for any units, so we get to pay all of our attention to positioning and making sure we're okay and can kill our enemies. And Corki with Last Whisper Rageblade Hodge just does so much damage, slowly whittling down their entire team while our Itis takes infinite. Feels so good. And the Soraka's healing our Tiny Tactician, even though we haven't procced Last Stand yet, which is something I forgot, but we never proc Last Stand in this fight, which is kind of the ultimate flex. Around the end of stage 5, we finally proc our Diamond Hands, which it seems like we started this a decade ago, and we don't have anyone clearly to use it on. It's pretty nice that we can take off the Shimmer Scale units by putting them on our bench. So I kind of just put it on whoever from fight to fight to see who I think needs it a little bit more. But all of our strong units have full items. But here I decided to scout the lobby and see what my win condition is. With Corki, it's going to be one of 2 things. One is go 9, maybe try and find a Yasuo 2 and help beef up our front line, or the second idea is Corki 3. And I decided that in this lobby, it's actually a Corki 3 angle. The reason being, I do have a lot of econ. There's not too many people still contesting Corki. Most people have moved to other comps. Person in first place has a Shyvana with Edge of Night. And the unfortunate thing about Shyvana with Edge of Night is there's just no world where having a beefier frontline is going to stop them from melting your Corki. So what really needs to happen is we need to be able to dish out so much damage that we kill their frontline as well as their Shyvana as fast as possible instead of losing. If we're playing against some capped out Jade players, I'd absolutely go level 9, try and find Yasuo and give him Diamond Hands and maybe put some other items on him that we're going to get off this next carousel and maybe off Test of Valor. But because the only person we really lose to is this Shyvana player, this 6 Dragonmancer, 6 Ragewing, 4 Shapeshifter Shyvana player who can easily kill my Corki when positioned improperly. Yeah, no, Yasuo is going to do nothing against this comp. And I do a small roll down here at 6-3. Try to see if I can find any more Corkis. We do have a Nico's Help, so if I find just a couple, I might be able to make a Corki 3. We don't find it. We do find a second Itis 2, so we might even make an Itis 3, as well as I don't roll below 20 gold. There was a decent chance we were going to miss, so you want to be able to build your econ back up pretty quickly. Diamond Hands does give us 2 gold per round, assuming that our Thresh takes that much damage, which would help, but the game's not going to be too much longer, so we do want to be able to ramp up our econ again. We're far enough from Corki 3 that we don't want to donkey roll every round, especially if there's a chance we might hit Itis 3. Off of 6th carousel, there is a Corki with another Trap Claw. I'm not too keen on any of these other items, so I'm totally fine taking another Trap Claw Corki, especially because Corki has full items too, so it's just going to pop off, and we can put it on our other backline or maybe on Thresh with our front line. Those are a couple of options. Now that we have a 3rd Corki, I kind of do a little bit more rolling, and we actually come to this part where I'm 1 off of Corki 3, 1 off of Itis 3. Now I think most people would Nico the Itis here just because it saves you 8 gold. However, I Nico the Corki, and it's for the same logic on why I decided to stay level 8 instead of going level 9, because frontline is actually not really going to be what protects us from the Shyvana. The last time we fought Shyvana, Itis was the last person alive, and it does no damage, so it doesn't even matter anyways. Corki needs to be able to burst down the entire enemy team before they kill him. So Itis
3 is Pog and is nice, and I'm still holding it because that would be super cool. I've never hit it before. But Corki 3 is the actual win condition. And if we lose with this Corki 3, then Itis 3 might be the win condition. And luckily, we are not contested with it at all. We still have to pay attention to positioning because Corki 3 is not exactly a instant win, sadly enough. The person we're going against actually has 2 Zephyrs, so pretty sure if that Shioyu was able to get in while our Corki was Zephyred, it doesn't matter that he's 3-star, we'd still probably lose. Though our Itis is actually taking a lot of damage pretty easily, but it's still good to practice good positioning anyways. 6-7 gives us a Giant Slayer that we just throw on Sona. It's our only other damage dealer that doesn't have full items. And I roll down on 7-1, trying to find Itis 3, and we hit. Some people would probably say I high rolled hella this game, and maybe in the end game I did. But honestly, I didn't even have a Corki until like 5-2. So I think a lot of it was the lobby was trying to play off meta, as well as we just played a really strong early mid game and we had enough HP that we made it to a Corki 3 and an Itis 3. We are still super scared of this Shyvana. It gets really close to killing our Corki several times. So I'm pretty sure Itis 3 was also part of the win condition. But yeah, we win the game. As always, we end the game with a GG's and we take home our first victory as a Masters player. That's 40 LP, baby. Now, if you enjoyed this video and it helped you in any way, I would really strongly suggest you hit the subscribe button, not only because it really helps out the channel and we're really close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to be in before 1,000 subscribers, you'd have to hit it like soon, but also because I'm going to start making more of these videos that don't necessarily always go over guides. The next video is going to be an Elise guide, but I would like to start teaching more basic concepts throughout my videos, as well as just being able to make videos on more casual games instead of just perfect games for a specific comp. I think that would get a lot more value, plus you'll get a lot more videos, and so that's what we're going to start doing, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy all the content that's coming out. Hit the like button if you would, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.